All right, on to the NFL and the free agency that brings us so much discussion each offseason. Been plenty of movement thus far, and we will no doubt continue to see more take place in the days ahead. Drink, I don't mean to point you in any particular direction, but it's really hard to overlook what the Patriots have done thus far.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm waiting on TMZ to come up with that breaking news that Bill Belichick ain't. You know what I'm saying? He's somewhere overseas, somewhere vacationing. He ain't making these calls. Is it because when think about this when the news started breaking and free agents started signing, or not necessarily signing but coming to agreements with teams and everything, and then you see the Patriots one time, then you see the Patriots two times, then three times. Wait, two tight ends? Hold up. Why was it Cam coming back? Oh, hold on. So I'm gonna be honest. This does not feel like Bill Belichick, but we do know Bill Belichick is the GM. He's the guy with the personnel moves. So it gotta be him. But this is very unpatriotic. Now, with all that said, listen. So I guess Robert Kraft said, "Look, enough's enough. We ain't we ain't having another season like we had last year. That's enough. I don't care what we gotta do, Bill. You better start. Maybe we're gonna cut your pay and start paying some players because enough's enough. We gotta get some players, and that's what they did. I like what the Bills did. Not the Bills. I'm sorry. I like what the Patriots did. I like the fact that they was able to bring back Cam Newton for another year. I like that. Give him another shot, win healthy, and let's see. Because let's think about it. Yeah, he was playing gimpy, but once he went out for COVID, that's when his performance took a nosedive. Before he went out for COVID, he was, he had New England in the right place. I think they wasn't the world beaters, but they wasn't the bottom of the league either. You know what I'm saying? So I think they bringing back Cam Newton, and now you giving him weapons. You sign these wide receivers, you sign these tight ends. Listen, New England has made it very clear that they want the smoke. Another team that I was very impressed with their offseason thus far is the Arizona Cardinals. Make no mistake, Cliff Kingsbury, you and Kyler Murray are getting a significant amount more support than Steve Wilkes and Josh Rosen got in their 1-2 year sabbatical. So with all that said, I'm telling you, Cliff Kingsbury is getting fired this year. You got it here. Breaking news. If these boys don't make the playoffs, he's getting fired. That's all it is to it. It's no way you could convince me that he's not. The management is doing their job. So at some point, they're gonna look at coaching and be like, "Let's get us there, coach." But with that said, I think I like what they did. Before I move on, let me talk about a couple of teams I don't like what they did. The Ravens. What are we doing, Ravens? Ravens. I mean, last time I checked, right? One of the biggest problems with Lamar Jackson is he don't have a legitimate down the field threat. He got elite tight ends. He got John Brown. I don't know what Dez Brown was doing. Maybe he was holding the coolers. But the biggest problem with them was they didn't have that over the top, take the top off. So you would think the first thing the Ravens would do this offseason is get a receiver that can do that for you. Now, as you reminded me earlier, it is wide receivers out there. It's not like it's, bare covered out there. But I just felt like when free agency opened, the first thing the Ravens would do is find some type of weapon for Lamar Jackson. You're going to have to get him that weapon. Listen, we just seen this with Josh Allen. I don't know what the hell the Ravens need to see to understand this. But quarterbacks need a dynamic guy that they can depend on. That's how they get better. That's how Josh Allen got better. That's how Patrick Mahomes got better. That's how, Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't. Tom Brady even showed us. You throw out a bunch of stop signs, you get what you get, right? But you get a quarterback, somebody he can trust, somebody he can be confident in. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Super Bowl. Like, you gotta give him somebody. And I don't understand what the Ravens doing. I don't get it. I don't understand. The second team is the Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry. they had before this free agency, they had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Top 5, right? Like their offensive line was pretty legit. Why? Because they had spent money in the past on the offensive line, only to give it a facelift this free agency. And I don't quite. I mean, I know their offensive line was expensive, but it was good. Like you get what you pay for, type deal.
They gutted it. They lost 4. Yeah, 4 of their 5 starters are gone.
So I mean, with the Raiders right now, I feel like you felt when the Packers decided to draft Jordan Love instead of going get a wide receiver. Like, what are we doing, Red? Y'all are going backwards. Y'all not going forward. So those 2 teams right now probably are my top 2 teams that got me baffled. Like, what are we doing in free agency? I think the Ravens got to get more to help Lamar, and I would like to hear John Gruden's explanation, either him or Mike Mayock's explanation on why they gave the offensive line such a facelift after paying them all this money. I just don't get it. So yeah, those was my 2 greats and my 2 not so greats.
Yeah, I was gonna get there about the Raiders. That's something I happened to notice. I had a couple of running lists that I was looking at. A couple of trackers just to keep track of all the mega movement that's going on.
Right.
I said mega, not MAGA. Don't freak out, folks.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about this. But yeah, I had the free agent tracker seeing who's going places, but also I'm interested to see like who's losing. And the Raiders, when I saw that note, incognito, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, Trent Brown, they gone. And this was, like you said, this was a top 5 unit. And some of these guys, like Jackson and Hudson, they've been around for a while, out in Vegas and before that in Oakland. And that's you look at it moving forward. How I'm wondering. I'd like to know what John Gruden has to say about that too. How are you going to replace all that? And that was like a big deal, like because they could open good lanes for Josh Jacobs, protect Derek Carr, and now I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to replace all of that. But let's go to some good stuff, and let's go to New England because this is kind of interesting, and I think we've never seen New England behave this way in free agency. They've never been the team to just throw money around like they out there maxing it out like we thought the Rams was doing.
Right.
But that's could it? I don't know. Some people I've seen some some debates talking about is this some desperation because you know what it is. Tom Brady got another Super Bowl and Bill over here still stuck on 6. So is Bill a little bit concerned? Is he trying to like catch up too quick? There could be some of that and some of this stuff doesn't like knock your socks off. Like, we asked, I'm sure Cam Newton put in some requests for wide receiver upgrades. I don't know if he had Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne on the wish list, but I mean, Aguilar, I actually, I think both of them are a little underrated. Aguilar, his days in Philadelphia, you had the video of the kid, like, whatever he said, the guy I'm talking about. I can't remember what he said, but
when he said catching the kid from a burning bit, I know what you're talking about. Though, yeah.
Like, yeah.
I got it.
But I will say, as far as scheme or what we think the Patriots will be scheme wise, Kendrick Bourne. Oh, and by the way, Aguilar, another player the Raiders lost. What about that? But they both come from run heavy offenses. Think about that. And New England with Cam Newton and with whoever's going to be in the backfield, Damian Harris, Sony Michel, whoever, they're probably going to be a little run heavy. So, both those guys, I would definitely think Bourne has a good reputation of being a good blocking wide receiver. But regardless of what you think about those 2 guys, these tight ends that they brought in, that's where they're going to make that money. They missed the days of Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. That's what they missed. And it may surprise you, I'm a little bit more excited about this Jonnu Smith signing because I've seen, what he was able to do in Tennessee when he was playing behind Delaney Walker. He got more playing time last year. He's fun to watch. He's athletic. He can make a lot of plays in the red zone. We know how talented Hunter Henry is. So that's going to be fun to watch. And you think about it, you go back to Cam Newton's Carolina days. He made a lot of money with a good tight end in Greg Olsen. So those type of parallels are interesting. New England, we know Cam Newton. I mean, at least I do. He's not as bad as he was last year throwing the ball, and we saw what Tom Brady couldn't make it work with some of those guys.
Right.
So in his final season, and we saw what he can do with the elite weaponry they got in Tampa Bay. So overall, I mean, if nothing else, the Patriots dominating the headlines. They just out here signing everybody. They're making. I mean, this Matt Judon sign, that's a big deal. $14 million a year for 4 years. And they also needed a little bit more in the pass rush. I mean, they re-signed Dietrich Wise to a pretty nice contract. Jalen Mills, as if they needed more help in the
That's who
secondary.
it was. Jalen
They
Mills.
loading up, and they got some pretty underrated guys in the defensive line depth like Henry Anderson. Oh, and don't this is a little underrated. Speaking of Trent Brown, the Patriots brought him back. So they making a lot of moves. It's gonna be fun to see how it turns out. Don't forget, if they doing this in free agency, we're gonna be have to pay attention to what they do come draft time.
No, I don't think so. See, now that where I differ from you. I think draft time. See, this is the thing about Bill, right? We always said Bill know what he doing when it comes to NFL players. The draft, not so much. Not to say he's the worst drafter of all time or anything, but he missed a lot. And I think I think in the draft, what he's gonna do is he's gonna trade back a lot or whatever, or he's gonna try to use the picks to get some other players that's already. I just don't think Bill care about the draft. This is his draft right now in the free agency.
I want to say, and just by sheer volume of moves, Patriots have been very active. There's two other teams that have been like active by sheer volume of moves. That'd be the Jaguars and the Texans. It hasn't really impressed me as much. I do think Jacksonville. I like some of the wide receiver moves they made. I think Marvin Jones, him coming in, that's a nice thing to do. Give you, as we assume, your young quarterback a good veteran target. Philip Dorsett as well. Tyson Alualu, that's an underrated signing. A little depth on the defensive line. They get Shaq Griffin. They paid him a lot of money to be the number one cornerback. Carlos Hyde, he's been around a lot of different teams, professional running back. Some of the signings, though, they do. I mean, I'm wondering, who is Rayshon Jenkins and why does he get $9 million a year? I cannot, maybe you know who he is. For the love of God, I don't know who that is. Roy Robertson Harris, I think he played at Chicago. So I'm not as impressed with Jacksonville. I'm probably even less impressed with Houston. I think the best thing they did was they brought in a good backup quarterback. And he might be the starting quarterback when it's all said and done. Give Tyrod Taylor some let him throw the ball a little bit this year. But overall, I'm not moved by what they did with the Marcus Cannon trade. Maybe that's something. I mean, some of these guys, Malik Collins, Terrence Mitchell, Terrence Brooks, Mark Ingram. It's pretty unimpressive. They're getting a bunch of rentals that look like.
Yeah.
Some of the Baltimore with the wide receivers. It pains me to say this, and maybe they won't go this route. I think Juju Smith-Schuster makes a lot of sense for Baltimore. I think he makes a lot of sense for him with the way, because Baltimore wide receivers, historically, you're talking about tough guys. You're talking about Derek Mason, Anquan Bolden. A lot of times guys that can not only catch the ball, but they can run block as well for you. I think Juju would fit in very well for Baltimore, and it would add another just great twist to that Pittsburgh-Baltimore rivalry that I really enjoy watching. I have to say, and I don't mean to beat up on Cincinnati, I'm never a fan of what they're doing. I don't like. Trey. Are you sure?
You didn't like Trey? Joe Burrow either?
I like that. I'm talking about free agency. I'm talking about free agent. They've spent. You remember last year when they got DJ Reader and Trey Waynes and some.
Right.
Are you sure about Trey Hendrickson? Are you sure he's worth $15 million a year? I'm not. Chidobe Awuzie, Mike Hilton. I like Mike Hilton. I do, but 4 for 24. That's pretty steep for a nickelback. So I never seem to be enamored with what they're doing. And there's been, other teams, there's been a lot of teams that have been pretty inactive. I don't think Green Bay really, other than re-signing Aaron Jones to a big deal, they've been pretty quiet. Philadelphia has been silent. So I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're just going to, try to have a good draft and get better on that. Pittsburgh, we knew they weren't going to be all that active. They've re-signed a few guys, but most of the guys that we thought they'd lose, they likely will lose. Bud Dupree got a big contract from Tennessee, 5 for 85. Uh, yeah, it's been interesting to see three teams really just dominate early on, just by sheer volume of moves, like with New England, Houston, and Jacksonville. But you are right, by the way, on Arizona, and they haven't
Yeah.
done a whole lot as far as bringing in players from other teams. They've done some good things re-signing guys, but J.J. Watt and A.J. Green, and don't forget A.J. Green with DeAndre Hopkins. Um, I think you are right. Every big name veteran piece that they adds more pressure to Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. So you could very well be right. If Arizona doesn't take another step forward and make the playoffs, um, yeah, Cliff might be out of here. We'll keep more tabs on this as the situation progresses.